think you don't. I think you can get away with just one layer. Okay. So this guy also has a, okay.
Hold on, tell me what's going on there.
Well, I folded him up and then realized that I'm not going to be able to get that wire through there with him folded.
So how do you deal with that?
You do it at the same time. I should have been looking instead of talking.
Gotcha.
But you know how I am.
So then you're basically just
I'm
opening
just
it
gonna
up.
opening him back up. But other than that, I think
Just to give him enough space to actually pass through that other
yeah,
loop.
because you kind of have to do all three of the connectors at the same time.
There we go.
Yep, here we go. That's better. Now the one thing that I had me stumped, and maybe you guys have suggestions, was how to put the handle on the top. Because he's supposed to have a, or
So he
if
can
he
spin?
even, yes, so he can spin, or if he even needs a handle, because in theory, since he has feet, he can dance, right? He can do it on his own. Okay, so the feet are on 16 gauge wire, so they actually do need to be bent with pliers, and you remember to always put the pressure on the wire, not the feet. Oh, I just did that one the wrong way. Or you get that, did you see that? I just broke that little chip right off because I put pressure on the glass instead of on the wire. Hear me now, believe me later. Okay, this is hysterical. Oh, I think I want that to go the other way. And then, of course, when you're adjusting him to make him stand, you have to do that with the pliers too. But the round ones aren't always the best for that.
So right now you're basically just
I'm just-
positioning his feet
right,
so
I'm-
he looks like he's dancing.
Positioning his feet so he could possibly stand.
Yes, and I want you to put the dreidel in front of that camera. Yes, let's see how that
Oh my
looks.
gosh, that's hysterical.
Oh, there we go. It's like a great miracle happened there.
So that's funny. So here you can see him.
Very cool.
There he is. He actually looks like he's running away. He looks like something from a science fiction movie or something. Okay, so there's our dancing dreidel.
Give it to me as well. I want to
Okay.
show it on the. You saw it there, but I also want you to see the itty bitty details on this camera right here.
So
So
funny.
there we go. And you painted him with mica?
With mica, yeah. With gold mica.
With gold mica, and you can see the
Yeah.
top. You can see how she did the bottom there. Very cool, Jody.
Thanks,
Mr. Dreidel.
Mr. Dreidel. And he would probably be a $25 guy, I
Okay.
think. This is my first dreidel, so I don't know. He's very cute though. Okay, so the other thing, and this is when this project actually has huge variations that you can make. So the other thing that we wanted to make for Hanukkah was a menorah, and so that's a little tricky. It's a candle holder, and we want to make it out of glass. So I have it here, and we used low E float glass, so that's why it's a yellow color.
Uh-huh.
Right? So one of the tricks is that you need to be able to size that hole to fit whatever candles you're going to use, right? So what I did is I took chalk, which is, and this is my super special secret,
I haven't seen chalk in
Thing.
years.
right? It took me a bit to find it. so you can actually use chalk to fuse holes in things. So if you put it between layers of glass and fuse, then you can take the chalk out and you have a hole.
Great tip.
So, but you see my chalk is not the same size as my
Your candle.
candle. So I needed to do something tricky with that.
Hey,
So-
before that, just so that we can conclude the previous one,
Oh, sure.
he has feet. Does he spin?
Only when he dances by himself. Like this, right? No, he doesn't spin. He's just a display guy.
So, but if you can think of a way to get him to spin,
Let us know.
let us know.
We
And
are-
then, Jody, why do you have to fuse mica side down?
Because when we roll him up, we want the mica to be on the outside, and when you roll him, I'm not sure if this will show or not, but we can look at him on the overhead cam and see if I can explain it better. So if you look right here, when you fuse, right, the edge of the glass curves, and it smooths over, and then it's flat on the back, but it's almost like a bevel, right? And so when we roll it up, we have to do it with the bevel on the inside so that it doesn't break the corners off. So when you do that, when you roll it up, the glass that's on the outside is the stuff that was fired directly onto the kiln shelf. So that's why you paint the mica and you fire it mica side down, is so it rolls up correctly. It doesn't have anything to do with making the mica work better or anything like that. It's all a matter of the architecture of the piece.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
All right, so back to the menorah.
Okay.
You have your chalk.
I
It's
have my
not the
chalk.
same size of the
It is
candle.
not the same size as
Poses
the
a
candle.
little bit of a challenge.
It can pose a challenge.
So how do you deal with it?
So what I did is I took, of course, my trusty fiber paper.
And don't forget to let me know when you have those cool secrets.
Okay. Oh, there's my scissors. I lost So I've just got a piece of fiber paper that is as wide as my chalk. I broke my chalk in half, so I just have half of a stick of chalk. And then what I'm going to do is roll it up in fiber paper, because I want, the candle is round, of course, so I need the hole to be round. Otherwise, I could just put a stack of fiber paper in there. But I need the hole to be round. And so I roll it around chalk to keep the hole round, and roll it until it's as right, until I get the size
Of the candle.
of the candle. And then I take, this is just a fine gauge copper wire. Okay.
Oh.
And I wrap it around one end and do just two twists. So that it does a couple of things, and this is the really cool secret. Right?
Ooh, secret, secret!
One of the tricks, as you probably have run into already, is when you stack sheets of glass on something round, what happens?
It just, gravity works.
Rolls. Well, and the round thing tends to roll too, especially things like chalk, right? Because they're really. So what I've done here is I've put the seam, and that's the other problem, is you have a seam. So I've put the seam where the wire crosses, and when I put that on the glass and on the shelf, I'm actually going to use that wire to keep that from rolling. See?
So
it holds
clever.
it in place.
So clever.
And it keeps the seam on the downside, and it keeps it round, and it keeps the chalk in place.
Boom.
So I don't
You're
have
awesome,
to.
Jody.
Thanks. I don't have to glue it or anything like that. So when I made this guy, I used this is window glass, and it is it's got a low E coating on it. I don't know if you can see it. Probably better with white.
Oh, I got white.
Oh, but white too. Okay. So can you see those spots on it?
Yes.
Yeah. So what low E, there we go, right? There. All of that stuff. So what low E glass is it is just, it's regular float glass, but it's got a coating on it to keep the UV light out of your house. And it's very common in the newer windows. And what it does is it's a silver, it's like a very fine, it may even be vapor deposited metal coating, like silver. And so when you fuse with it, it turns bright yellow, like a silver stain. So I really like it, but it is unpredictable and strange. So and you have to be willing to put mysterious things in your kiln.
By the way, Jenny said, Jody, put Mr. Dreidel on a Lazy Susan to make him spin.
Oh!
I just purchased the course. Thank you.
That's a great idea. And you know what I've seen? Oh my gosh. We have to put this in the display and stands class. But I've seen little tiny solar powered display stands that rotate. So you could put him right and it would just spin him around. It would be very cool. That's a great idea. Okay. So I started with graduated squares. I actually have a pattern of rectangles. But it's,
or a bar chart.
Or a bar chart.
At it.
This is how popular our class is.
And this is how it's grown in popularity.
Indeed. In fact, the last class isn't even on there, and it should go right up. I'm kidding. So we started with graduated rectangles, and they are 1.5 inches wide. On my drawing, they're 1 inch wide, and I started to cut them and went, not quite big enough. So 1.5 inches wide. And varying lengths.
So you're just using your mat as
I
a guide,
am.
right?
Yep, I'm using my mat as a guide because, in fact, I might name it Mat because that would be awesome. Just make sure that. So because this guy has to stand up, I want the bottom of the rectangles to be really flat, like straight, really straight and square. So that looks pretty good.
And you're using, we can see it from the top even, you're using the lines on the mat as the guide.
I'm using the lines on the mat as the guide. Okay. So when we do this, we use 20 gauge nichrome, and we join the pieces across the here. Oh, I threw my wire cutters at my foot. Okay, here we go.
Little dots of glue?
Little dots of glue on both pieces to hold the wires. Right, these are the wires that are going to hold them together. Okay, so now we have our chalk and we have our glass, but we run into a problem with this. When we put it in the kiln and we're trying to keep this, right, the shorter these pieces get, the more difficult it is to keep the chalk in place.
Okay.
And I can show you
how you deal with it.
Like, yes, I'll show you how you deal with it, but I'll also show you what I mean. To see if we have the smaller piece of the menorah or whatever we're making. Let's see. So now we have it's difficult to keep the chalk and the fiber paper in place. So what we do when we set this up in the kiln is we take a piece of, and this also will keep your glass perfectly straight along the bottom, which is a really cool feature. Ha.
Especially if you don't want your candles to fall.
Right.
By the way, just a clarification from Linda,